Hey, what's up everybody? So in this video, I'm going to give you some tips for technical interviews, coding interviews, interviews for programming, web development jobs, things like that. So I work full time, but from time to time, I get recruiters or different companies asking me to do interviews, and just to stay sharp and kind of get a sense of what the industry is doing, and also to get information that I can bring back and give the students, I take some of those interviews. So I took one, I think it was yesterday or 2 days ago, and basically I can't go through and show you what it was that I had to solve for them because they don't want the solution out there, but I can kind of talk about what it was. So they sent me a project. It was for a Rails job, Ruby on Rails, and JavaScript, and they wanted me to build a single page application. They wanted me to build a single page application with Rails that basically took some input from a user, some text, and then it would parse that text, find the unique words within the text, and create a word count for each unique word, and then order all those words by their count and then display them back on the page. So you would use HTML, create a form, and then you'd have that form submit to a route on the back end, which is Rails API, and you would intercept that request with jQuery or vanilla JavaScript. You would pull the information from the form, send it to the back end, and that's where you would parse that text, do whatever you wanted with it to be able to count the occurrences of the unique words, put them in a sorted list, and send them back to the client, where you would then take that information and render it to the DOM. So pretty simple. I think it took me maybe like 45 minutes to an hour to do, and that was mostly because I haven't used Rails in a long time, and so I had to do a little bit of Googling to get caught up with the syntax. So then came the actual technical part, and I have to admit, even like right before I started the interview as a Skype interview, I was nervous, and I think almost everyone gets nervous before interviews. So one tip I have is going to be regarding how to get over that nervousness. And so for me, sometimes I get really nervous, and that can kind of make you lock up and forget things. And so what I do in those situations is I tell myself that I really don't care about that job. Whether I get it or I don't, it doesn't matter. And then after I've convinced myself that I just don't care about the outcome of that interview, I also imagine that it's not an interview. Instead, it's just me talking to a friend or me talking to a student. I do a lot of consulting and tutoring, and I just act like it's a situation like that. Excuse me. Where at that point I'm totally calm, cool, collect, because it's just me talking to another person about technology, which I do almost every day. So the interview started. Hey, what's up, man? How's it going? What are we doing here? Okay, I'm showing you the code. I'm going to walk through it. Let me share my screen. If you're doing a technical interview over Skype and not in person, then try to be kind of courteous to the person on the other end, and make sure that you make your text a little bit bigger so they can see everything. You don't assume anything. If you're going through something, you go through it meticulously, and you give them opportunities to ask questions about things, and just be as clear and concise about what it is you're talking about instead of making assumptions and glossing over things. And just let them know that you have a really good understanding of what it is that you created or what it is that you're solving. So I got over the jitters really fast, and even in situations, prior interviews where I didn't tell myself, I don't even care if I get this job, or I didn't convince myself that it was just me talking to a friend, normally the jitters subside within the first like 30 seconds or 10 seconds of talking to someone. In this case, I'd already gotten over it before we even started the conversation. But just so you know, just start talking and things will smooth out. You'll realize that people aren't scary. And if you end up with a scary interviewer, I don't know, that's too bad, because those people are typically few and far between. Hopefully you don't end up with somebody that's kind of on a power trip or wants to intimidate you or anything like that. Generally, you want to be interviewing with a company or a person that is someone that you would want to work with and you can get along with and become friends with. So if you look at it like that, you can get over the nervousness aspect pretty quickly and get into what the interview is all about, and that is kind of showing them your value as a developer or whatever the position may be. So yeah, I walked him through everything. Fortunately for me, I had the benefit of being able to do the challenge the night before. So I already had everything done. I had it all commented out. That way I pretty much just read through the comments. I mean, I didn't even have to look at the code and say, oh, this is what's happening here. I had it all commented out. So I just kind of read off those, and that was like my prompt. And at that point, everything went really smoothly, and we got through the technical part pretty quickly. There will be situations where you'll be whiteboarding. They'll want you to solve a simple algorithm, or write out some data structure or something like that. Or they may want you to pair program with them, which this situation could have been a pair programming situation, but it didn't end up being that because I kind of had everything already done, so there was no need to really do any actual programming. But in those situations where you do have to break something down and solve it, those are some tips for doing that. Are, one, don't forget to break everything down. Immediately take that larger problem that they're trying to have you solve and break it down into smaller pieces, which you should already be doing that every day, all the time as a programmer, breaking things down into more digestible blocks of information that can be solved in smaller sections, and then put everything back together at the end to create the final solution. And that will help you, that will keep you from getting overwhelmed, help you focus and get things done. So definitely don't try to multitask. Break it up into a bunch of little blocks and start solving one block at a time. That's how I would do anything if I was whiteboarding. That's how I would do anything if I was pair programming. Break it down into blocks. Write down the steps beforehand in pseudocode. That's just a term meaning that you're going to write out what the program should be doing in plain English, readable English, and then you can convert step by step that readable English into whatever the syntax is for the language that you're using to solve that challenge. Yeah, so those are my tips for whiteboarding, for technical stuff, for pair programming, for Skype interviews, in-person interviews. That's kind of my blanket strategy for all those things, to help you get over the jitters, to help you get through those problems successfully. But yeah, definitely just loosen up and go into it without any expectations. Even if you're under a lot of pressure, I see a lot of students, I have to get a job. I have to have a job within 3 weeks, because that's when rent is due, or that's when I lose my current job, or that's when my parents are kicking me out, or whatever it is. So even with that pressure, still convince yourself that you don't care about that job, and you will be a lot more calm while you are talking to whomever it is that you have to do the interview with. Yep, so I think that's pretty much everything. And if I have some more tips, I will share them with you in another video. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon. Thanks.